7:25 right now. It's normal for kids to act out, especially during the so-called terrible twos, but nearly 10% of children go on to develop a behavioral problem called oppositional defiance disorder, or ODD. You may have heard of it. And it could lead to some serious behavior issues later in life if it's not addressed early on. So what are the warning signs? Joining us this morning to explain, Dr. Robert Reynolds of Connecticut Educational Services. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Great. Thanks for having me, Ted.
And during the break, you were talking about this is a timely segment because summer vacation is coming up. Break from school. Explain why this is such an important time for kids and the parents of these ODD children.
Well, because with the summer, the kids are going to be home a lot more. They're not in school. And the vast majority of children with ODD demonstrate these behaviors at home. You don't see it at school so much. And so now the parents are going to be dealing with this on a full-time basis. So that's why I think the timing is great.
All right, as quickly as you can, maybe describe ODD, because I know there are probably some parents out there in the audience who don't have children like this, rolling their eyes saying, come on parents, just get control of your kids. Let's not give it a name. Let's not give it a diagnosis. It's just kids misbehaving because the parents aren't doing their job.
Yeah. Well, every kid can have a bad day. But children with ODD, they have a lot of bad days. And when I mean bad, I mean really bad. They can have serious behavioral meltdowns, temper tantrums. They can fly off the handle at the least little things. Oftentimes, parents feel like they're walking on eggshells because they're afraid to set the child off. So it's really a whole nother category, and it's not every child. It's about 5 to 10% of children.
All right. And the parents may feel like they're in the crosshairs because if you talk to the child psychologist at school or the teachers, they don't know what you're talking about because they never see that behavior at school.
And that's what makes parents somewhat reluctant to talk about it, because they go and they describe these behaviors to their child's teacher, and the child's teacher says, I don't see any of that. And so it sometimes makes the parent feel like, well, maybe there's something wrong with my parenting. Maybe I'm just a bad parent. And it's not the case. These children have a chronic degree of inflexibility. They're very sensitive children. They're easily set off, and it's oftentimes parents don't get the help that they need for that very reason, because they're embarrassed, because they're afraid that somebody's going to point the finger at them.
Is there actually a medical reason? Is there some sort of like frontal lobe deficiency that contributes to this?
There's a number of theories about it, and some types of testing can detect those kinds of differences, but I don't think there's a general rule. This is more of a behavioral diagnosis than it is one that's more through those kinds of testings.
So let's talk about how you treat it, because you have a unique way of doing this, right?
Well, we have two ways of treating it. First of all, we don't do a lot of work individually with the child. We like to work with the parents to help them to re-engineer the home environment, to put it back under their control where it should be. A lot of what we do is based upon a skills model, not just a pills model. The other thing we do is we do work with the child individually with a new technology called EEG neurofeedback training. And this is a technology that utilizes computers to help the child start to manage his own behavior better. And over time, by changing the home environment, by working with the child's brain, we bring these things together, and we oftentimes have a much better outcome.
With no medication?
We're a medication-free zone. It's not that we're against the medicine. It's just that we think all too often it's the first thing that's given before other things are tried. Many, many children can learn to manage their behavior without having to resort to medications. The saying we have around CES is it's skills before pills.
And I know we can't get into this in 30 seconds, but what types of things do you teach parents to do in this situation?
Well, first of all, parents are the ones that are oftentimes overwhelmed. They're constantly putting out fires, they're constantly dealing with crises, and if they have other children, then those other children are oftentimes being robbed of the attention that they need. So we teach them how to rebalance the family formula so that the child who has ODD isn't dominating the household. That's job number one. Number two is we oftentimes help them to pick and choose their battles. You can't fight over every single issue with a child who has ADD, or ODD for that matter, and expect to come out on top. You're not going to. So that's oftentimes parents unfortunately end up pouring gasoline on a fire when they start arguing and yelling at their child who's having a meltdown. It doesn't make things better and often makes things worse. So sometimes it's a matter of telling parents what they need to stop doing before we then can tell them what they need to be doing.
And all this advice just in time for summer break. Dr. Reynolds, thank you for coming in this morning. If you want more information on what they do there at the Connecticut Educational Services, you can go to our website at WTNH.com. Just click on the Good Morning Connecticut Weekend section.